line between light and dark is so very thin. I am God! And I have become legend.
And welcome back to the 10th edition of Becoming Legend.
What is up?
What is up, Guardians? How are y'all doing today?
Hopefully good.
Hopefully
good.
Great. I hope y'all are out there getting some great loot. I hope you're out there rummaging the Glycon, picking up some lore, putting down the boss of the Glycon. Yeah, so this is the 10th episode of our Destiny podcast. I just want to take a brief moment to address the viewers and listeners and say thank you so much for sticking around. Y'all are the reason that we do this. We're really glad to see that people are listening to the podcast, gaining information, and learning more of the deeper story of Destiny 2. I believe that's all we really wanted, was just to spread the message of Destiny 2 around.
Yeah, very much. Preach the gospel of the sword logic and what have you.
Indeed. Pretty soon we're going to get to the gospel of the winnower versus the gardener, but those are going to be in the next couple episodes. Keep an eye out for those teasers. But so there's a huge gap between the amount of story that's presented to you in the game of Destiny 2 versus the actual story of what's going on, implications, characters, motivations, etc. So we really just like to break down the parts that are missing, the parts that may be presented in-game but not fully explained or expanded upon, certain characters who might have a history of events that they don't really talk about in-game or explain why they're so important. Why are you shooting these alien things in the face? What's the purpose?
Yeah. Like if it's not in a cutscene, or it's not something that we physically experience in the game, it's something that's very easy for people to miss. Also, there's a lot of people that have been coming to play the game in the last year or two, ever since Destiny New Light became a free-to-play game and the expansions were the paid thing. When that happened, and especially after the release of Beyond Light, we lost the first 3 years of campaign knowledge. The Red War, the Curse of Osiris, the Warmind, the events of Forsaken. We still kind of know, but no one was there for the season of the Drifter, the Black Armory, the season of Opulence, where we went to the Triumph Hall, and we went and explored the Leviathan more with the all of the different raid challenges that we could do. And especially for you and me, Bird, like we've been playing since Destiny 1, so there's a number of players that may not understand the Vault of Glass, who may not understand why the Cosmodrome's coming back is a big deal, even though it doesn't have the plague lands. They don't understand Siva. And so one of the best things about the Destiny community, from my perspective, is that it's a relatively small community of passionate people who just want to make things better. And I think for us, the way that we see ourselves fitting into this world is continuing to help those new players who are coming into the game get a better understanding of the lore and things you should be paying attention to, and kind of getting your mind to think about what could be coming in the future. There's a lot of other great guys that also do lore content. You have the Mylan Games. You have the My Name is Bifes. You have the entire Destiny lore and Destiny raid secrets subreddits, where people just continue to dive really deep and nerd out about these things. But this podcast and everything that we're doing is just an extension, an add-on, a compendium of all of that. Like we're just here to kind of help new people. It's twofold. We're here to help new lights get an understanding of the game, and also I like to think somewhat selfishly that it's for us. We get to continue to gush about the game that we've been playing for these past 7 or so years. So it's been great to get to 10 episodes. It's a big milestone, mostly in the sense that sometimes we get busy, and 10 is double digits, man. So it's just now, as the season is kind of slowing down, we're not really anticipating any of those new story moments that you need to play week after week after week. Now that seems to be slowing down, we get the opportunity to kind of slow down and think and kind of talk about the things that are not relevant to what has happened over the past 7 weeks. And I'm just really excited for both our conversation today and the conversations that we're going to get to have as time continues to progress.
On the note of conversations that we're looking forward to having today, one conversation that I was particularly planning was letting our listeners know a little bit more about who the Guardians are guiding them through this. I'm gonna go ahead and start off. My Guardian name started off as Jumper 90 on Xbox 360. That was a long time ago. Did transfer to the Xbox One for Rise of Iron. That was a major upgrade for Destiny. For you Destiny veterans out there, you may remember the graphical difference that they implemented whenever they launched a newer version of the engine for Destiny. It looked so much cleaner, and everything was brand new and shiny, and that was an amazing moment in Destiny history. From then, I continued on to Destiny 2, which I did switch to PlayStation because, unfortunately, at the time, Xbox was not getting exclusive missions, exclusive strikes, exclusive PvP maps, and there are certain maps that I never got to play because I was an Xbox player.
One strike.
Indeed. They might bring it back around. We'll see.
They did. They brought it back. That's why I'm able to play it.
Yeah. So from there, hopped into Destiny 2 on the PlayStation, switched over. That's where I became Birduup. Still stuck with my Exo Warlock Guardian. Tried to keep the same image as my original Jumper 90 Guardian, but I was just not able to transfer him from the Xbox to the PlayStation at the time. But it's all fine. It's the same Guardian. My Exo was just reset. He died and he was reset, became a new Guardian. It's okay. I have gone on to kill several Hive gods. I've gone on to destroy leaders of Cabal empires. I have saved the city once, twice, a couple times. Made some new friends along the way. But one of my, I feel like, defining moments as a Guardian was the Wrath of the Machine raid from the Rise of Iron expansion. Was one of my most favorite periods of time within the Destiny history. Especially that was at a time when we were really wrapping up Destiny 1. It was coming to a close. Therefore, all the best parts of every expansion for Destiny 1 presented itself during this Rise of Iron DLC. During this time, we were also introduced to Siva, which was one of the first times you come across what could be considered a man-made threat to the system. Sure, the Fallen were the ones who ended up discovering Siva and bending it to their will, but Siva would not have been possible if it weren't for, here we go again, we spoke about it in previous episodes, Braytech. Oh man, Clovis Bray and his family has caused so much issues for us as a species, for us survivors of the human race, who've already gone through a collapse, multiple warlords, darkness invading. It's a lot. It's a lot. But my Guardian has come a long way, gone through all of this, went through real defining moments, such as, did we pull the trigger against Cade 6's murderer or not? That's up to you. That's up to your individual Guardian to decide. But Exo Warlock's been around the block. Really looking forward to what is going to be the next major threat. There are rumors going around that Siva may be coming back, but I'm not going to dig too deep into that right now. How about Mr. Tweeziix? Tell me a little bit about your Guardian.
My Guardians, in fact.
Guardians, indeed.
So we talk about it. I am a player who has been playing since the alpha. My history with it is Bungie, as we all know, before they did Destiny, they did Halo. And I was very much a Halo fan. I was one of the many people attempting to compete at an amateur level, not even a professional level, but at an amateur level in Halo, from Halo 3 to Halo Reach was the last one that Bungie put out. Personally, I continued to try and compete all the way through Halo 5. But Bungie obviously left Microsoft and Halo behind after Halo Reach. And we started hearing rumors about this new game, Destiny. And so when Destiny was first launching, they got a whole bunch of ex-Halo pros or Halo pros. The one that I remember most vividly was Optic Flamesword. He was the captain of the Optic Halo team. Before that, he was the captain of Status Quo. He was just someone that was playing the game. It looked fun, so I picked it up. And I started playing it, got excited, went to film school, and found out that some of my friends who also played Halo were going to be getting the game day one. So got in line day one, loaded it up in my Xbox 360, picked Hunter. And I don't know if you remember this, but the first day of Destiny was garbage. These days, as we know, Destiny is a live service game. But the way in which the architecture has been built, the way that the bubbles worked back then was such a new concept for a console game, that it took a few weeks for the servers to kind of balance themselves. And so I was unable to establish like a good, consistent connection with the server. What that meant was I replayed the first story mission a lot. Like by the time that I was actually able to complete the first story mission, get my ship, go to the tower, right? I was level 10. Now, some of you who are new to the game may not understand level 10 is rather low, but in vanilla D1, level 10 is actually like middle tier, because I think the max you can get to by the end of the Dark Below was like 30, 32.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I remember just like grinding to reach 28. Played it with my friends, grinded it out a lot. That first year of Destiny was hard, man. There was a lot of different currencies. Remember Saphiric Wires? Yeah, nobody does. I played it with my friends, but Destiny really was struggling to identify itself and what it was. And there wasn't really much of an end game to speak of. There wasn't a whole lot of things that were really intriguing to players. So I remember helping one of my friends who is now a director and producer over at Rooster Teeth. I remember helping him make some videos about how you could take pikes and then do a side boost over some of the ledges that were to prevent you from taking your sparrows and pikes into areas. And there was just different ways in which you could side boost yourself up and over them so that you can take a pike in and take out just like waves of enemies in places where pikes weren't supposed to go. So we made those videos, but I really like Destiny was a game where I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Whatever. Played through the campaign, met the Exo Stranger at the end. That was it. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. I didn't really think much of it. I went back to Halo until the next year after Taken King came out. I was watching some people on Twitch who I followed from the Halo scene. Everyone was kind of hanging out, and all that I saw, like whenever they were done scrimming their Halo matches, they would get onto Destiny and they would play the new Taken King expansion. So I got Taken King, and that expansion was the thing that changed it for me. Like no ifs, ands, or buts. And that is why it is my favorite moment in the game. Because the difference between what Destiny was, vanilla Destiny, and what it became, and what we as fans and players saw, like what it could be. Just exploring the Dreadnought and all of the secrets and the calcified fragments and the Court of Oryx and that just repeatable public event that you can do, and the little basketball room that you can go. There was just so much stuff on that ship that was so cool. That I remember I was very early in dating the woman who has now become my wife. And I got in trouble because I was like, oh, I can talk to her and play Destiny at the same time. And then I stopped paying attention to her and started paying more attention to the game because it was just so good. And I continued to play. I played through Rise of Iron, which is, Rise of Iron was the great UI expansion. Like everything looked better. They rethought the UI. They introduced the Triumph books, which was new. It was very exciting. We got to see Siva, and that was cool. But like, it was more the UI and the stuff that made it exciting for me. Getting to go to another social space, and getting to, that was the first time that we were really introduced to what we, the artifacts that we have now. They were like old shields back in the day. You can swap them out for different things, and they would do different, like they would boost you in different ways back in Rise of Iron. Around Rise of Iron, I swapped to Titan. My wife was a hunter main, so I swapped to Titan so I can run Bubble Shield. And then we were excited. It was that time, you were still on Xbox. We were playing together as we would. We tried the 3-man. The Vault of Glass. It did not go well, but we tried, and that's all that matters. We got decently far. Destiny 2 came out. My wife and I were super excited. I had a friend, the friend who was the producer at Rooster Teeth, and I had started doing a podcast called Returning to Orbit, which was a Destiny podcast in a similar vein to this, but more like talking about the weekly events and the way that, the Destiny community podcast or whatever, they kind of talk about things. We did that for a little bit leading up to the release of D2, and like both my wife and I were so pumped. And then D2 came out, and it was a step backwards, like it really from where we were in Rise of Iron to where we were when D2 came out. Those are two completely different games. And it's really hard to believe that, as years have progressed, like we understand why it was so different. Like they started developing Destiny 2 after developing Destiny 1, and there was just so much stuff that went into why Destiny 2 wasn't what we expected it to be. But my wife kind of fell off after a bit. It was weird. Nothing was what we thought it was going to be. We had formed a clan, but the clan tools weren't that great. The pickup game system that they introduced, where guided games, wasn't that great. You would just sit there for an hour, and yeah, it wasn't great. But Forsaken came out, and Forsaken, very similar to Taken King, really pushed the game forward. And ever since Forsaken, like I've been playing nonstop, starting sometime around Shadowkeep. I swapped over to Warlock, who I play now, because I didn't have a Warlock. Like I had a Hunter, I had a Titan. I didn't really play Warlock, so I was like, all right, let me play Warlock. They can throw down Healing Rift. Like this is what I need. And then obviously Beyond Light came out, and Warlocks were overpowered with Stasis, and so I stuck with that. But yeah, man, I've been enjoying playing for as long as I have, but for being honest, my favorite memories are just experiencing the Taken King for the first time, and getting to just explore the Dreadnought, and hearing about all these secrets that people were finding and trying to recreate them for myself. And it's something that when Destiny is at its best, it's something that fuels the entire community. It's we saw it with the passages of time. we've seen snippets of it. We saw it in the Warmind expansion, where there was a physical like javelin hidden in a geocache in real space. Like Raid Seekers is where I love to be, because those people just like really hone in an almost unhealthy way on like minute details in the game. But those are the things that I love most about the game, is getting to explore and find secrets and experience things, because there's so many things that, like, as Guardians we've experienced, the loot cave that existed on the Cosmodrome that got buffed out because they got mad at us. The 12-man raids, that we just experienced, and how stupid those were. Destiny, as I've grown older, is less about the gameplay and the story and all those things, and just about the memories that I'm making within the game with the people that I'm playing with. And that's a lot of what makes this game like truly special for me. So, oh man, that was emotional.
That's really great, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's what it was. What it is.
Indeed. Yeah, just kind of flashing back to previous moments, I was reminded of a time that you spoke of during the Taken King DLC, where I felt like world puzzles were really prevalent, where you could just wander around the Dreadnought and there are random cryptic ruins in Hive language, and you have to figure out what they do. They require a key that requires you to go find some random enemy, kill him, slay him, get some sort of buff, go back to that area, and then, okay, you think I get a chest now? No, that just unlocks another thing that you have to go do. And you really had to just wander around and try and do trial of error in every single space to discover all of the secrets. And even now, Destiny 2 is trying to replicate that with scannables. It's not exactly the same, and it really hasn't ever been that way, I feel like, since the Taken King and a little bit of Rise of Iron. It's interesting that you said the launch of Destiny 2 was a step back from where we left off in Rise of Iron, because that's absolutely true. They are building up to a bigger and better world, and I absolutely love where they're going with the story and some of the things they're adding in mechanically. But I do wish that we would go back to a little bit of a time in Destiny 1, especially when you're discovering a new destination and there are so many puzzles and crypts and ruins and all kind of hidden lore, and just a little bit more of a flushed out world that made it feel lived in.
Yeah.
That was definitely an experience that you got with Destiny 1 versus Destiny 2. And at least Destiny 1, if you want, you can still go back and experience all of that. It's still there. Whereas Destiny 2, now, parts of the story will be impossible to experience.
Unfortunately, some of the people who listen to this podcast will never get to experience the wonder that was the Whisper of the Worm mission. They'll just be able to unlock it from the Monument to the Lost Archives, which is fine. Everybody should have access to that gun. Everyone should have access to Outbreak Perfected. But it was something else when you were there and discovering it. Like the excitement that the community had discovering the Whisper of the Worm and how that unfolded, and those hidden missions, man, like that. We need more of that. I don't ever want to see us in a place where it's like the season of the Black Armory, where the mission and the secrets are so intense that it takes weeks of cryptographers to unlock the secrets, and even then Bungie still has to come in and kind of like make it easier to unlock the last forge. That happened. But at the same time, like I don't need everything spelled out for me. There's some things that are exciting to discover for myself. And I think we're slowly but surely getting on the right path again. I understand that a lot of it is things that are out of Bungie's control. They used to have multiple supporting studios helping them with Activision support. Now it's just Bungie. You know, they were starting off on the right foot, and then COVID happened. You know, there's been a lot of setbacks, but you know, the things that I see now are nice because they lead me to believe that the powers that be know what it is that the fans want and are more than are just trying to figure out how to give us what we're asking for, you know, without giving too much away.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And even the Bungie of today has changed and evolved over the years versus the Bungie of yesteryear of Destiny 1. And they're a little bit clearer now in context of in communicating with the community at large. Whereas before, you really didn't know what was coming or when or how it would affect the game. Now they try to keep you in the loop. They try to let you know exactly what details they're working on, what is coming down the pipeline, and what to expect over the course of the next year or so. Especially now that they've really built up this these timelines of seasons and being able to present the story that way versus larger DLC. You know, it really kind of sets the tone and the expectation that whenever you buy a new expansion, you're only going to get a part of the story. And you, in order to continue with the full story and to know everything that happens and the repercussions of what happened in that original expansion campaign, you need to keep up with the rest of the season. So, for any Guardians out there who are strictly playing the free to play version right now, I've actually had a few Guardians in my fire teams that I've heard recently kind of complaining about them not being able to access the seasonal activities and the seasonal story, especially when they're playing with me, because that's all I'm talking about is trying to explain every bit of the lore as we're playing the game. But I would say to any players out there that stick with the free to play model, if you can, purchase the expansion, purchase the season. It's roughly about $9.99 every 3 months or so. And not only are you gaining access to the story and keeping up with what's going on there, you're gaining access to now major gameplay missions, major mechanical developments, new strikes. The free to play players are not able to play the newest strike that just launched 2 weeks ago. And I think that's a little bit of a shame, but that's where I want to say definitely if you can, just spend the $10 because that strike alone was worth $20 to me. That was the best new strike we've had in a while. And
we also haven't gotten a lot of new strikes.
Absolutely.
You know, for being honest. No, obviously there are things that matter to people and things that don't. The free to play means something different to a PC audience. You know, there's a lot of issues with what's coming to be free to play and a lot of things that the devs still need to navigate as far as how to foster an encouraging community for new players while also keeping out players who are trying to evade bans by creating new, completely new aliases. It's a whole thing. So, if you guys are interested in, wondering whether or not that $10 is worth it, I mean, yes, it is more worth it for you to buy the I've always been of the mindset it is worth it to buy the expansion with with all of the year season passes when you can. The big expansion content, as we saw this past year with Beyond Light, gave you access to Stasis. That's an entire new subclass that new Light players don't have access to, and it's fun to experience. And then at that point, you also have access to all the seasons. You can do all the stuff. Still trying to figure out how to manage that, obviously, in years past with the first time that they rolled out seasons after Forsaken with the Black Armory, Season of Gambit, or Season of the Drifter, Season of Opulence, the Menagerie, all of that stuff was stuff that we can continue to engage in, continue to play, even after the season ended. And then we got Shadowkeep, and Shadowkeep came with 4 new expansions, but or 4 DLCs, but there is only one, like you can only play it for that small period of time, which was a season. And then after that, it went away. So we're going back. We're kind of fixing that now. But we'll see as we move forward. The best thing to do, unfortunately, if this isn't, your cup of tea, like that's fine. But the best thing to do if you want to stay up to date with the story is you need to be playing the seasons, because the seasons where a lot of story is happening. The expansion is where the major story points are happening. But the seasons still have large implications in the overall story. And we will see, prediction wise, we will see where this leads us in the future, because now the seasons are also a lot better than they were. They've really figured out the seasonal model and how they should be doing things. And so this is a new year for seasons, and we will see how the stories that they're telling will continue to evolve and change the narrative as we know it moving forward. So it's an exciting time. Ugh.
Yes, it really is. So now you listeners know a little bit more about us, about your hosts, about co-guardians protecting you from the forces of darkness or enabling the forces of darkness. Two sides of the same coin. At this point, we're actually going to discuss some of the major villains that will be presenting themselves in the near future. Some of these names you may have heard through gameplay, you may have heard in specific strikes or missions, you may have heard Eris Morn talking nonstop about it previous seasons. There are 2 major villains that I would like to discuss. Their names are Savathun and Xivu Arath. Savathun and Xivu Arath are sisters of the main villain from previous expansion, the Taken King, Oryx. There is a ton of lore about Oryx. I'm not going to go through all of it. A major part of the lore about Oryx and Oryx's sisters, Xivu and Savathun, is called the Books of Sorrow. You could consider the Books of Sorrow the Old Testament for the Hive. It's the story about where they began, how they became powerful, what species they've interacted with after they gained power, and where they are today. But as I mentioned specifically, I'll be talking about Savathun and Xivu Arath. First, I want to talk a little bit about Savathun. Now, the 3 original Hive sisters, as Oryx was indeed Aurix. Oryx used to be a female hive, proto-hive, called the Krill. So Oryx and her siblings were able to devise 3 different methods of gaining and controlling their power. Savathun found a way to turn knowledge, wisdom, and secrets into her form of power. Xivu Arath was war, battle, hatred, and Oryx, to my understanding, was just conquering everything. Is that more or less right, Mr.
Tweeziix? Give or take. So the proto hive or krill is what we think they were called. Is how they refer to themselves at the very beginning. It was Zero was Xivu Arath before she became Xivu Arath. It was something like was it Sathona for Savathun, and then Oryx was originally Orash instead of Oryx. They were 3 krill. Basically, the krill were a species that had a 10-year life cycle. And their father, they were living on a planet called Fundament. Their father was 10 years old when they were 2, and was obsessed with the moons of Fundament. There were 52 moons in Fundament, and their father's fear was that all of these moons were going to cause a synergy, or it's spelled weird, but go with me. A synergy of sorts that was going to cause the tides on Fundament to be pulled in such a way so that once this synergy ended, it would create a God wave, a massive tidal wave that will wipe out all life. He was so obsessed that the Krill mother, Teox, who had helped raise and teach the three sisters, betrayed their father and took over. And so they fled in exile, promised revenge, fled in exile, and they found themselves on a ship called the Needle. After a couple of years of just surviving, they got to, I think they were like 5, and they were upset because they were, they're like, we're halfway through with our life. We're never going to be able to exact our revenge. Like, you'll never be able to understand anything. So, the one who became Savathun had taken their father's familiar, who was a small little worm that, he kind of talked to. And we find out that the worm had been talking to her, giving her all these secrets because she was described as having luck beyond luck. Like, she was so lucky that it had to be more than just luck. And it turns out that what it was that the worm was guiding her. And the worm guided them to a ship called the Needle. And they took that ship and they dove down into the depths of Fundament, into the deep. They encountered the Leviathan, who told them to go back to the sky, to go back. And, their conversation with the Leviathan was very much, Leviathan was like, listen, I know it's hard up there, but if you continue on this path, you're going to cause nothing but massive death and destruction. Go back up. If you go back to the sky, there will be peace. They disobey the warning and they go down and they meet with the worm hive gods. The first one they talk to, I think, is Akka, the honest worm. Akka presents them with 3 larvae. And there's a deal. If they ingest the larva, they will turn into the forms in which they want to take, and they will be immortal as long as they are not killed in their throne worlds. But, and this is the but, in exchange for taking that worm, they're going to have to feed the worm, lest it consume them. And the way that they feed it is through what defines each of them individually. So at first, Arash takes its worm, is known for being an explorer. Arash is the first navigator, takes that worm with the promise that we'll always be curious, we'll always be exploring. And Arash becomes Oryx, Auryx. That's important because it gets spelled a little bit differently later. Savathun ingests her worm, and the promise is of cunning. So she becomes Savathun, the witch queen, the cunning. And then Zero becomes Evu Wrath, the, known for war. And they continue to live and conquer. They create the hive as we know them today. And what really becomes important, because we gloss over a lot of things, is that one, Oryx convinced his sisters, that, hey, one of the big problems that we're having is that for all the conquering that we do, our worms get hungrier. And like, the more we do, the hungrier they get. Eventually they will devour us. I have a plan, but in order to enact that plan, I have to kill you too. So he kills Evu Wrath. He kills Savathun. And then he goes and kills Akka. Or he kills one of the worm gods. I think is Akka. I could be wrong. I'll correct it in a later episode. He kills one of the worm gods and takes from it knowledge that he turns into the tablets of something. When he kills the worm god, he gains the ability to create Taken, more perfect beings, that he is able to take beings and mold them into his will and like bring them back, and that's where the taking come from. That's once he kills the worm god, he becomes Oryx, Oryx, the Taken King. And then he starts killing a lot more people. By killing a lot of people, he resurrects his sister Xivu Arath by enacting war. And then later he gets jealous and he starts plotting on ways to kill Xivu Arath. And in plotting so, he brings back Savathun. And Savathun is known for being tricky, being cunning, convincing people to do things that she wants them to do. I think the most important thing with this is that, eventually the three siblings separate. They say that they need to go their separate ways so that they can understand their power a little bit more. Savathun, in this time, Oryx has made the decision to have children. He has two twin witch daughters who come up with the idea of the Oversoul, in a way of cheating death further than just the throne room. And then he has his son Crota. And Crota is responsible for cutting open a gateway that allows Vex into the Oryx's throne world. And Crota does this unbeknownst to him under the guise of Savathun, who has tricked him into believing that by doing that, he can explore death in the same way that his sisters are. And he invites obviously the Vex in, and the Vex create a simulation. As we talk about multiple times, the Vex are specialists at simulating things. And the Vex create a simulation of Oryx. And that simulation of Oryx, I think, ends up being given to Xivu Arath as a gift from Savathun. Another just like a trick played in the wings. But I glossed over the Books of Sorrow. Long thing short, we defeat at the end of the Taken King. We defeat Oryx in our world. And then if you go on to play the raid in the Taken King, you travel to the throne world and defeat Oryx there. So Oryx is truly dead at this moment in time. Only Savathun and Xivu Arath are left. And we have been experiencing Xivu Arath. In a lot of ways, Xivu Arath is responsible for what's going on with Osiris. And Savathun is the one that we are being promised in future iterations. So yeah, I think I summed up the Books of Sorrow pretty well.
Yeah. Really.
It's only like 50 cards of Grimoire that you get from collecting calcified fragments,
Oh yeah, and these calcified fragments, for the viewers who did not get to experience Destiny 1 or the Dreadnought, you had to go physically find all of these things. Every single one. You had to go find
You get to make
them.
a cool sword.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they make the coolest sword. And that was actually another one of my favorite moments in Taken King. We get the exotic swords. We get 3 of them. Man. But yes, no, you did a very fine job of summing up the Books of Sorrow. And to the listeners, especially to the ones who are still playing the game today or playing currently, or who may have listened to the previous episodes, you may start to see a little bit of a pattern. Now, before I explain this pattern, I'm going to dive back just a little bit to when Aurex, Shiro, and I'm sorry, what was Savathun's original name?
Sathona. Sathona.
As they were rising to power and learning to experiment with their new powers, waging wars on species and taking over planets and all this stuff. Which, by the way, we did not state. This is maybe, I would say, several hundred years to maybe early 1,000 or 2,000 years before the beginning of Destiny 1. We're going way, 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 way back in time, a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
The darkness. No, I did forget to mention that stuff. So, well, the darkness was up to some creepy stuff because apparently they discovered that there was 53 moons on Fundament, and that the 53rd moon was the Traveler, and it was the Traveler, the darkness, the deep, what have you, led obviously the three sisters to believe that the traveler was responsible for the tides being pulled in such a way. You know, as a personal aside, we know that the darkness manipulates gravitational waves. We know that now, so I don't fully believe it. But anyways, continue. I just remembered it, needed to throw that in.
Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely a good way to convince someone that the traveler is the one. You know, there's a moon out there that doesn't belong, and and gravity waves are shifting the planets. So you would think it was the moon. You wouldn't think it was the deep or the darkness down underneath fundament. But what I was starting to lead up to was these three sisters for generations, for millennia, had only themselves to fight with and war with each other. And that's how they decided to become and stay the strongest, was by constantly warring with each other. Because if we're only fighting outer enemies and never fighting each other, eventually we're going to come across the enemy that none of us will be able to take. So they killed each other a couple times. Oryx kills Savathun. Savathun kills Xivu Arath, vice versa. They res each other and, you know, become stronger. How you could say their quote magic works, or how their ties works, how they're feeding the worm, as Mr. xTweeziix said earlier, is through death and destruction. Now they found a way that not only whenever they kill species, whenever their sons and daughters and spawn and armies and hive and all of their trillions of soldiers in their army, anytime they kill someone, the top three get the credit, and that goes directly to the worm. That's the system they developed. That's a little bit how the taking of other species works. It's a way to give tithes to your worm so it won't kill you, but also you can take enough power for yourself so you can grow and survive. Now, with this pattern of them only attacking themselves for millennia, I think that is really prevalent today, and especially specifically the way that Savathun tricked Crota into slicing open a portal, a rip in space-time where the Vex were allowed to come in. Doesn't that sound very similar to the way that Savathun convinced I'm sorry, she has a really long name, but she convinced Kaido's mentor on the Cabal homeworld. And what happened? A rip was torn in space-time, and the Hive invaded and took over the home planet of the Cabal. And it's just, that's a really good strategy, and one that could potentially be used against the Guardians at some point. Trick someone on the inside to do your bidding. Once they do that, trick someone else into killing that person, or going out and trying to gain power in the case of Crota, and basically creating a situation where your enemies destroy themselves, where they're already in a state of chaos and disarray that they can't even handle the current situation, and that's when you move in with your armies. That's when you summon your sister Xivu Arath to come in and do what needs to be done. So this is not the first time that the Books of Sorrow sisters, that the Proto Hive have, tried this strategy in the galaxy. And it's just very interesting to see these patterns repeat themselves over and over as we try our best to stop them. But the darkness really just has a way of infecting the minds of even the most strongest willed beings.
Yeah, it really does. And we see it time and time again. The darkness, we've seen it with Callus. The darkness promises something, but when it promises something, it also has a cost to it. And we just see it more and more, like the cost of doing business, the cost of dealing with the darkness. And expansion wise, we've only started coming to terms with what it means to wield the darkness and how to wield stasis. And we have an understanding, thanks to our conversations with the Exo Stranger, about what the consequences could be if things go awry. And so what makes me excited as we learn more and as we go back and like, the darkness was a thing that we knew, but when Taken King came out, like I didn't know the deep and the darkness were the same. I didn't have the understanding of the darkness that I have now. And even now I don't really understand the darkness, So given what we've seen over the past season, given what we know over the past, 6 or 7 years, like I am curious to see where this is leading to, and how is this going to play out? How are we going to deal with Xivu Arath? How are we going to deal with Savathun? Even more frightening, if we kill them, will they come back? If we do something, do they have the power to come back? We've already defeated one worm god, and then Oryx defeated another. So there's only 3 worm gods left. Right. But, what's going to happen? That's the more we learn, the more questions I get to ask. Like, what does this mean? And like, does this mean that this was happening all the way back then? I'm perpetually confused and excited about the state of the game and what this means for us. We know that we are going to face Savathun. We know that, like it's promised. The next season, the next 2 seasons. When are we going to face Xivu Arath? Is that going to be over the course of the seasons? Is that something that we're going to do an expansion? Who honestly knows anymore? But what makes me excited is that we have this rich history of lore that has been given to us throughout the course of the game. And it feels like, and I know we talk about this a lot, it feels like we're starting to get to a point where the lore that we were given years ago, that was just background information that we didn't really think about, is now, upon further reflection, gleaming new insights into where the story and where the game could potentially go in the future. I still have my theory about what next season is going to be. We're going to be facing off against Amtech again. They're going to try to go and harness the powers of the Vault of Glass because we know Vault of Glass is coming. But I have no guesses for anything past that, And I know that Savathun's coming in the Witch Queen expansion, but what's going to lead up to that? And how are we going to get there? And how are all of these dots that we've put out there, how are we going to connect them all to form the bigger picture that is this game? It's slowly, it's slowly starting to come together. And it's nice that after like 7 years, like some of the stuff is starting to pay off. You're like, oh, I remember that from like 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. There's currently a theory that everyone has. There's a song that you heard whenever you would log into Shadowkeep, called Savathun's Song. And that's a song that we've seen Crow like whistling. We've seen Zavala humming it. Is that going to be the corruption that we've heard rumors of? Yeah, man. Like, is that the corruption that we've heard rumors of? What is that going to mean? The thing that you talked about exactly with Savathun's way of just tricking people into doing her dirty work for her. Will Savathun's song that we hear members of our own Vanguard singing or humming? Yes. We've heard Eris doing it. We've heard Zavala doing it. Amanda Holiday has done it. What does this mean for us, the Guardians? There's so many theories about how Savathun's going to come in and really show off her cunning. And these little breadcrumbs that we're getting just make me excited and nervous, because what if she has Zavala? What if she has us all?
Indeed. Indeed. And what is she really working on? What is her real goal? For viewers, I just want to talk about just one of Savathun's trickery strategy. And this occurred in the lore of the Forsaken expansion. Long story short, Savathun Oryx and Savathun cast a quote spell on the Dreaming City, the home of the Awoken. And what this causes, what happens in this place is every 3 weeks, 21 days more or less, it's a time loop. So even though you keep living in the present, you're living every day as a new day. You go to sleep, you wake up, it's a new day. After the 21st day, it's actually 3 weeks ago. And you're in a time loop where the city becomes more and more infected with taking bloop, and more enemies appear. And no matter how many you kill, no matter how many times you try to stop this thing, at the end of that 21st day of the 3 week cycle, it resets. Now, what Savathun has been able to do is she's been able to harness this time loop. And even though you're killing all these enemies and they respawn, those deaths are actually being recorded and counted and used for power. She is gaining power even though we're fighting the same enemies over and over. And this is actually years later, now 2 years, about to be 3. We have not stopped this time loop. We have not been able to do anything about it. The device where she harnesses these deaths and turns them into power is known as a murder battery. If you read the lore, you may see it pop up once or twice. It's called a murder battery. Essentially, she's working on the same idea that Oryx had to generate more power in order to feed and or overwhelm your worm. So you're not a slave to it. You're free to do whatever you want with all this power. And Savathun found a way to really maximize and multiply on the threat that we faced in the Taken King. So with this power, with these murder batteries, because I don't think this is the only one that she has or is working on, with these murder batteries, plural, what type of power is she going to gain in our war against Xivu Arath? Do you think she just summoned her sister just because she missed her? I don't. I think she summoned a very close, a being close enough in power to her that all the death and destruction us as Guardians are going to create while fighting her, she's going to harness all of that and turn it against us. I think so. This is all speculation at this point, but that's really what it's starting to build up to. And we see time and time again where she puts something in our path in order for us to take something out of her way. We think we're going to go kill this monster and we're going to ruin her plans. Actually, that's what she wanted us to do. Or she was unable to kill that monster, or it was more efficient for her to make us do her bidding. So you see the pattern that we're talking about, people, and it's just really interesting to see what is going to happen at the end of this pattern. What is she building up to? That's what
exactly.
I know.
Don't we all?
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, we have to wait at least until 2022.
Indeed.
Unfortunately,
we're gonna have more stories coming along. We'll figure it out, or we won't, and it'll just be a massive shock to our systems, which would be much welcomed at this point.
Yeah. Either way, I'm gonna keep playing.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, before we let you go, viewers, I do want to just briefly talk about something that we've name dropped here and there a little bit through our previous episodes, and those would be two characters. One is the winnower, and one is the gardener. I'm going to preempt by saying I'm not going to go too much into that. That's an entire episode of Becoming Legend coming soon. There's a ton going on there, but I just want to say that all of the enemies and all of the gods that we've taken out and learning to understand the darkness and the light is really another game. Just like the games we're playing by Savathun set up now, there are even larger omnipotent beings in charge of our universe that at some point we will have to face or converse with or do battle with to try to get them to leave our system, because they have absolute control over what lives and what dies in our universe. And we are essentially fighting for the power to decide our own destiny, to decide our own paths in life. But if all of these beings have their way, then we're not even going to make it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see if we ever get to face off against them. It felt like they got an entire lore book, so that it was going to be something more than just a thing. Eventually we're going to deal with this. When? Maybe 4 years from now, but I'm excited to see how this is going to play out. Where what they are is the winnower and the gardener a metaphor? Like, are they going to hit us with some real meta stuff talking about how they are the winnow and the they are the winnower, like they being Bungie and we are the gardener, and look, like you can get real deep real quick when talking about this.
Absolutely.
So
now just sorry listeners who don't really know what we're talking about. Just do a little bit of Destiny lore reading. Look up the winnower and the gardener. We will speak about this in future episodes, so I do apologize to just name drop this and not really explain, but I promise I'm leading up to a point. It will make sense in future episodes. But just know that there are forces at work in this galaxy of ours that we haven't even come in contact with. We're too busy fighting what's in front of us right now to see what's going on behind the scenes. And we may be enabling what comes down the path later on.
Very much so. Very much so. So that, I think, is going to have to be a discussion for a different time, because that
Indeed
is definitely a longer discussion to have.
Indeed.
So
look forward to it.
In the meantime,
it'll be coming soon.
If you guys want to know, about us, about these talks, about these things, what's the easiest thing you can do? Subscribe. I didn't know of a good way to lead into that. Easiest thing that you guys can do to learn more about these things is to subscribe, whether it be on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Subscriptions really go a long way, helping us see, who you are and that the content that we're producing for you guys is the stuff that excites you and gets you going. We have a Discord channel, Discord server, not channel, where we talk about it, or we talk about the stuff going on in the game. We talk about some of the weekly topics. It's a great community that we're just trying to build here, of fans of Destiny who want to just, nerd out and talk about something that, especially over the past year with all the stuff that we've kind of gone through as a society, it's nice to sit around and talk with some people about something that in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter. Family matters, health matters. Destiny is a fun little distraction to give you some moments of happiness or aggravation or something outside the everyday. So we welcome you to join our Discord, talk with us there. I think, honestly, based off of our conversation today, in celebration of 10 episodes, we want to get to know you guys better. So if you join the Discord, if you're listening, the weekly topic is going to be very simple. What is your favorite Destiny moment? Tell us. Let us know what you think, because we love to hear that from you guys as well. This is a game that has been great to us. And it's what's led us to meet all of you. So we want to know what your favorite moments are. So that's going to be our weekly topic. I think this is the best one. Celebration of 10 episodes. We'll do something else when we reach 20 or 25, but we've got some ways to go. Oh, yeah. In the meantime, though, to plug our stuff, Bird, you've got all these shows coming out, got all these things you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
People wanted to know, where do they go?
Right now, popping place to find the Bird would be the Bird's YouTube. As Mr. xTweeziix mentioned, I have been working very hard on my YouTube. I'm constantly uploading Destiny lore videos, explaining Destiny in-game content, as well as other things. I do play other games. I also recently started a series with my personal trainer about mental health, fitness, and video games. If you like one of those three topics, I suggest checking it out. That will be Birduup Gaming and Anime, BIRDUUP Gaming and Anime on YouTube. You can find me there. You can also find me every Tuesday and Thursday. I haven't set a time, typically in the afternoons, at twitch.tv/Birduup, BIRDUUP. If you happen to come by, you can join our Discord directly from the Twitch by typing !Discord into the chat. I put in a special command that will link you with our Becoming Legend Discord server. The link will also be in the description of the episode. I think that is enough on me. But what about if people want to know where to find you, Mr. XTweeziix?
Oh man, I'm kind of an enigmatic person right now. No, easiest way to contact me is Twitter at Taylor Zeller. That's my personal Twitter. It has the description of like, these views are my own. Obviously. Past that, you guys can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/xTweeziix. That's spelled XTWEEZIIX. In the middle of a rebrand right now, kind of working on new graphics and a whole bunch of new stuff for the stream. So I haven't been streaming the past couple of weeks. We've also been kind of taking some mental health days to really, now there's light at the end of the tunnel, to really just sit back and kind of to, relax and have some days to ourselves. When I do stream, it is typically late nights on the Pacific Coast. So we're talking like 10, 11 o'clock on Saturdays is typically when I stream. Easiest thing to do, go to Twitch, follow, hit the notification icon. That'll give you an idea. If I am going to stream, also, if you go to Twitter and follow me there, I'll probably tweet out that I'm going to stream. Right now, those are just the easiest places to find me. I have more stuff in the wings that I'm trying to work on, but that'll be announced at a later date. So for right now, Twitter, Twitch, that's the easiest place to find me. Again, all the links to all of our socials, the Discord, everything is going to be in the episode notes. So don't worry if you don't remember it, you'll be able to find it there. And yeah. Well, guys, it's been 10 episodes.
10.
So
10 hours of Becoming Legend right in your ear. Thanks for sticking around. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Really do.
Thanks again.
Really do. I mean that.
Yeah, I do appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.
I look forward to seeing you all in the next one as well. Winnower and Gardner conversation coming soon.
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
See you guys in the next one.